Hey, everybody. Really excited for this update and chat with Mitel, a company that's just celebrated its 50th anniversary. So older than I am, yet continually reinventing itself and growing. So I'm really intrigued to catch up with Eric. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Evan?
I'm doing well. It's great to meet you at Mobile World Congress only a few months ago. Seems like years in industry terms. So I'd love to catch up on things. You've been busy globetrotting the
Indeed,
world,
yeah.
meeting partners and customers and analysts. So give us an update. Maybe introduce yourself. And for those few people who aren't familiar with Mitel, who are you?
Yeah, it sounds great. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. So, as you said, my name is Eric Hansen. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Mitel, and a company that's been around for quite some time. And I think one of the signs of a great company is its ability to sort of read and react to the trends in the market and adapt based on kind of the business. Steady history of innovation at Mitel. I've been with the company just about 100 days now, so but I come to the company with over a decade of experience in unified communications and collaboration. Having played roles both at a UCAS player, but also even prior to that, probably actually 2 decades if you count my time as a customer, actually buying these types of technologies when I was an entrepreneur and had a company of several hundred employees. So again, great to be here and really excited to share some of what we're doing.
Yeah, and I want to dive into that. Maybe describe what you've been up to. You've had a major event with customers and partners, a lot of industry events. So what are some of the takeaways that you've been hearing on your global whirlwind tours that
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So we just completed actually a three-city global worldwide tour. The tour is largely centered on interacting with our partner community, customers, as well as business consultants that specialize in the UC space. Across those, we did North America in San Antonio, we did Barcelona, for our international partners, which includes basically, all regions excluding the Americas and DACH. So we actually had people come from India and join us in Barcelona, all over Asia Pac, as well as, of course, Western Europe. And then the last event was actually just this last week in Germany for our DACH partners. And so just amazing feedback. We had probably over 2,000 engagements, lots of
wow.
partner conversations. We included our Mitel user group in some of the events, which was great because we've got 11,000 members and growing. From that community, so really fun to have them be involved. And I think one of the great things for me, and I know we're going to talk about some of what I heard, but to get feedback in the surveys that we did after these events, on average, 90% saying they're excited about the vision that Mitel is bringing to the market, and over 90% also saying really served as a great mechanism in terms of their renewed commitment and excitement to continue to promote the Mitel portfolio. So very exciting results from the event, and at the same time, of course, happy it's over and settled down so we can actually just get to the business of doing business and supporting our customers.
Yeah, well, that's a great focus for the summer. 2,000 engagements. That's a pretty impressive tour de force there. What are they telling you about the current communications landscape? It's so diverse, from SMB right up to global multinationals, and the technology trends are very diverse as well. It's hard to characterize the entire market, but what are you seeing firsthand?
Yeah, and, I'm gonna use a quote, borrow a quote, from somebody who I think you also know, Dom Black from Cavell. He was actually at our international event doing a fireside chat with our head of sales, and one of the things that he said, which for those of us that have been around the industry for a while, there's the cliche, the one constant in life has changed, and I think that is especially the case in the communications landscape. And so I think that's largely what we heard. There was this rush, probably a decade ago, for a lot of companies thinking that they were supposed to just rush to an as a service solution that was served
Mm,
out of the pure public cloud, and that was going to be the final destination. And I think what we heard and what we've seen in the last several years is that while that's a really important segment, And obviously, especially for things like the general knowledge worker use cases, it's an important aspect to have in your portfolio. It's not the end all be all. One size fits all approach definitely doesn't work when you think about the fact that there's 3 billion workers in total around the world, and probably 2/3 to 3/4 of them are frontline workers, not knowledge workers. And their needs they still feel very underserved. So we heard from healthcare. We've been hearing from healthcare partners and customers that for some lines of business, having that type of a solution totally makes sense. But there are a lot of others, and we actually shared with some of our partners some recent case studies. Where for some organizations they might use something like a UCaaS solution for one particular line of business, but then they need that sort of deeply embedded, whether it's for compliance reasons or other specific sort of speed of light challenges, if you will, in terms of responsiveness for emergency services and the like. They really need more of a hybrid approach, and so that's really what we're doing at Mitel is being really thoughtful around not trying to push the technology, but instead align technology to a company's business strategy, as well as sort of their realities in terms of what it takes to excel in whatever they do, whether they're in healthcare, education, law enforcement, what have you. You think about the Global 2000 list, the top 5 to 10 industries all have a high percentage of frontline workers, and they have to, kind of navigate these types of challenges, whether it's in manufacturing or healthcare, even retail, right? So that's really what we're hearing from customers is they want that choice, that flexibility. They want to tap into the cloud when it makes sense for certain lines of business, but they want control, and they really need to ground themselves from a compliance and security perspective. So that's really what we're hearing.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Just this morning, I had the CTO of one of the biggest data center providers in the world, Digital Realty, on the show, and he shared that the biggest trend he's seen personally firsthand now is private AI, which is
Mm-hmm.
basically a private cloud managed in a hybrid environment, cut off from the public access that you're seeing around AI. And that was so thought, wow, that's a really interesting trend. So clearly, one size doesn't fit all, and your products are fit for purpose too, right? I mean, maybe describe the product line at Mitel for those who haven't kept track. You have quite a
Sure.
portfolio these days.
Sure. Before I do that, I just want to respond to your point about AI. I
Oh,
think that's a really astute, comment. And it's still early days for AI. And
hmm.
while I every customer that I talk to, I think it's really important that they put their toe in the water so that they can start to experiment and learn in more of a lab type of setting. But the AI is only as good as the data it's fed. I mean, I would actually argue it's not artificial intelligence, more automated intelligence, leveraging what we as kind of carbon-based assets within an organization know to be true, and feeding that. And I think the concept around private AI, I think, is a really important one, because if you think about the fact that there's lots of large language models that can be licensed and so forth, then have lots of questions around who's actually feeding that information. Is it using
Mm.
your information from your business? I had a marketer that was talking about using it for things like SEO as an example. And one of his observations after running some experiments was that when you license some of these things, and if you over pivot and lean too hard on things like AI in the creative process, then all of a sudden you and your competitors all sound the same, right? Because it's potentially leveraging the same large language models.
Mm.
And then I think the other thing that's driving that trend, which is not dissimilar from how we're thinking about it in communications, is this idea of living in the appropriate parts of the cloud, whether it's private, secure hosted or public. Again, right tool for the right job, but also living at the edge. Again, you think about healthcare where milliseconds matter, and there's certain dynamics, whether it's communications or in the case of AI, that we believe are going to be really important to be able to have that type of hybrid model in both of those scenarios. So I mean, I think it's a very exciting time, but I think you have to be very thoughtful about how you're executing.
Yeah, good point. And you're executing across the board. So for those of us who've lost track a little bit of your portfolio,
Sure.
it has grown, evolved, and it's getting bigger with your mergers and acquisitions and investments. Maybe catch us up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So, as you said, Evan, we've been around for 50 years, and brought one of the first virtualized PBXs to market a long time ago, and so we're always looking at those types of opportunities in terms of where the market's going, kind of in the spirit of solving real customer problems and trying to help them adapt to kind of the dynamics of whatever market that they are living within. And so for us, on the horizontal side, obviously we have unified communication solutions that can be delivered, on premise, which is, kind of the heritage of the company, in the cloud, the full gamut. And we can mix and match within a given environment because we find a lot of organizations need different types of solutions for different parts of their organizations, especially with global enterprise. And so having that flexibility becomes really important. That includes things like contact center, but it also includes more from a vertical perspective. More taking the approach of developing the portfolio or fleshing out the portfolio, which is one of the things that the Unify acquisition, which you were alluding to, really brought to the table, was more deep vertical integrations. So if I think about our virtual care collaboration solution, we've had Unify had a lot of success with that in hospitals in the DACH region, and now we're bringing that to North America. And it's a very differentiated product. It's not just kind of a web and video conferencing solution. It actually has deep integrations back to communications, back to some of the tailored solutions on the ERP or HR CRM systems, relative to lots of different things, and really trying to simplify the experience for both caregivers as well as patients, and how accessibility. And this is actually a great area where we're actually integrating some AI, and looking at ways that for the doctor, they can quickly scan through a report around past interactions or what other doctors have added to their records. And of course, that has to be incredibly secure, in order to stay compliant. And so those are the types of things that we're thinking about, where it's hybrid, right tool for the right job, integrated, deeply integrated to not just the one size fits all type of solutions that are out there, like a Salesforce for CRM, but adjacent solutions that are actually specific to a given industry, whether it's manufacturing or healthcare or what have you. And then multimodal. How do these solutions come together at that intersection of hardware and software to really drive a rich experience, both for, in the case of healthcare, the healthcare provider, as well as the patient and maybe their extended family. And so those are the types of things that we're really thinking about.
Well, I love the references to healthcare, certainly a passion of mine. And there's so much broken with our healthcare system that there's so much good work to be done around empowering providers and patients and doctors, nurses alike. So we'll have to dive into that deeper on another episode because,
Sure. Well,
well,
you and I aren't getting any younger.
to say the least, that's for sure. The other thing you've been really consistent with over the years and decades is your partner led approach. While many companies in this space, and I won't name names, have sort of refocused on cloud or maybe direct business, you've consistently focused on partners. First, why is that? And tell us about your philosophy there.
Well, I think, I think you have to have a mix of ways that you go to market. And I think, at the end of the day, you have to start with the customer and kind of work backwards from there. And so from our perspective, there's certainly number one, having a rich, partner community really helps us stay closer to, kind of customers that are in region, because there are certain things that they do beyond just what we sell, but that are very related. And so they can really maintain a level of intimacy with that customer that goes beyond just what they're doing from a communications perspective. And so we really see that that's strategic to both our success as well as for our customers' success. Of course, your customers, and this is one of the points of feedback I got at some of the events, they still want to have that direct relationship, even when they're doing business through a partner, and we think that that's great. And so, for us, it's about, again, putting the customer first, having a direct relationship, especially when you're talking about larger organizations, but also being very thoughtful around what their relationship is with our partner community and how together we can really deliver meaningful, kind of business impacts and in some cases even tailored solutions.
Fantastic. The other thing that was really eye-opening when we met at Enterprise Connect in Orlando was the team. I'd forgotten the depth and the breadth of expertise at Mitel, from the CTO office to the professional services teams, and talk about decades and decades of experience. Maybe give us a
Yeah,
peek
for
behind the
sure.
curtain on the relatively new leadership team on your end, but the expertise that's out there, because it's pretty impressive, and you don't always see it on display when folks are grinding behind the scenes, toiling away with customers and partners.
Yeah, for sure. So, I guess it's been just about a year, maybe a little bit more,
Hmm.
since we acquired Unify. And if you think about that, that was a really big bet that I feel like is really starting to pay off. You basically took two companies that were approximately the same size,
Mm.
but had, and while our portfolios overlapped some, there were a lot of things that were very complementary in terms of how we were going to market, and the depth of which we were addressing certain segments of the market, right? So we're now 5,000 employees, and I think one of the exciting things is that in addition to the vertical solutions that I was mentioning earlier, that acquisition also brought with it a rich heritage around professional services.
Mm.
And so post acquisition, 25% of our organization is now in professional services. And you may think, wow, that's a lot. But if you think about all of the things that we're doing and our belief around when you're competing for business and you're thinking about things maybe with more horizontal use cases, obviously you want to compete based on customer experience or driving operational efficiency. When you think in terms of some of the vertical solutions where you've got underserved frontline workers, you need to differentiate based on sort of these tailored, deeply embedded or integrated solutions, which is what we're doing. In both of those cases, though, with complexity, whether it's compliance or otherwise, you need to have rich professional services to bring it to life, right? And so we see three things on the professional services side of things, in terms of driving that type of desire for interaction, especially with larger organizations. One is, we were talking about, kind of a hybrid approach in terms of the portfolio of services or solutions that we offer, right tool for the right job. In some cases, in certain organizations, are really trying to extend the life of their current PBX as long as they can for various
Mm.
reasons, depending upon the industry. But they have the opportunity cost around supporting it themselves versus partnering with somebody and kind of doing the IT as a service, if you will, type of approach of doing a managed services contract to maintain that so they can take their own resources and focus them on other strategic projects. And that's sort of one value driver that we see. Certainly, with NEC exiting the market, that's a biggie, right? You've got NEC that, kind of with less than a year, communicated that they were end of sailing in, anything outside of Japan. And so that
Wow.
leaves, again, think about healthcare as an example. They can't move that fast. And so again, being able to come in and consult and create that managed services bridge to whatever their future state will be over the course of what could be, a year or two while they figure out how to budget for that. That kind of capability really matters. And so that's one of the reasons why I think the professional services piece that came from Unify is so exciting. You mentioned the office of the CTO. It's another great example. Luis Domingo joined us from Unify, and he's our new chief technology officer. I think you got a chance to meet him at Enterprise Connect. He and I have been joined at the hip on a lot of on the road over the last 2 months since I joined, and he's great. I mean, just very thoughtful, ton of history going back to the Siemens days, which are some of the roots from a Unify perspective. And so that's been a really great addition to the leadership team, and among many others. So we've got a really great, I think, culture in terms of the integration between Unify and Mitel, both at the leadership level, but also in the trenches from an R&D perspective. I think we've all probably seen acquisitions that maybe don't go as well as you hope. And in this case, I think what I'm seeing is true deep collaboration of what are the best parts of this portfolio? What are the best parts of this portfolio? How do we bring them together and do something really innovative and interesting that nobody else is really talking about? And I think that's what you always hope for, and that's what I'm seeing happen right now. It's really exciting.
Wow, it's impressive to watch it all unfold. And what about you and the team? Are things going to slow down a little bit this summer? You're going to have some R&R, or you're plowing ahead? What's next on
No,
your
we're
radar?
we are plowing ahead. We've got some exciting announcements coming. later this month, heading into Q2. Of course, August is always a slow time to make announcements, so we probably won't. We'll be a little quieter and just mostly focused on spending time with our customers in August. And then we'll hit it hard again coming out of August and into September, and kind of to finish the year strong. So, we're definitely, Mitel, I would say, has been a little quiet as of the last few years. And one of the
Mm,
things that I'm working closely with my team about is really to get out there, be more vocal around sort of what we're seeing in the market, engaging with folks like yourself to really help educate the customer base so that they know what kind of options they have as they're thinking about their business and technology strategy going forward. And so we're going to hit it hard, globally on that front for sure.
fantastic. Well, many of us who've been around for decades have fond memories of Unify and Mitel's good work in this space. So we look forward to hearing more. Thanks so much for joining and just the quick update. And hopefully we'll see you at one of the many industry events around the world.
Sounds great, Evan. Thanks again for having me.
Thanks so much, Eric. And thanks everyone for watching. If you're not following Mitel, give them a follow. They put out great content, very educational, insightful, beyond the usual marketing stuff. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Eric. Take care.
Bye bye.